Ever find yourself wondering how the Industrial Revolution did more than just, churn out new gadgets,
No. Mm.
how it actually got under the skin of society,
Mm.
changing how we lived, who we became?
Yeah, it's fundamental, isn't it?
Totally. And you sent in some fascinating sources looking at exactly these social shifts, and, well, we've taken a proper plunge.
We have indeed.
Our mission, really, is to understand how industrialization forged these new social classes.
And what that actually meant for people's day-to-day lives.
Exactly. We'll explore the birth of the industrial working class, the rise of the middle class.
And the new power wielded by industrialists. Big changes there.
Huge. Not to mention the wildly different worlds experienced by women depending on their class.
A really key point.
And finally, we'll look at the immense pressure this rapid growth put on the cities themselves.
Okay, so where do we even start with all this?
Well, what's fascinating, I think, is how the simple act of automating farming,
Okay.
how that kind of created this initial domino effect.
As farming got more efficient, well, it pushed people out of rural areas.
Made them redundant, basically.
In a way, yes. Pushed them into these rapidly expanding urban centers looking for work.
In the new factories and mines.
Exactly. It's this huge pivot from a largely agrarian society to an industrial one. And the social upheaval, well, it was just enormous.
Absolutely enormous. And you can imagine being one of those people, right? Moving from the countryside to some industrial town.
Yeah, your whole life's just...
Flipped on its head. You go from maybe having these deep-rooted skills, farming, crafts,
connected to the land.
to suddenly doing this repetitive, often really unskilled work in a factory. One of the sources we looked at really drove home how the machines became the masters of precision,
Right.
making the human workers feel almost like, well, interchangeable parts, cogs in a machine.
That feeling of being dispensable, it was central to that early working class experience.
So beyond just the type of work changing, what were the immediate shocks?
Well, okay, the wages might have seemed higher sometimes than rural life.
A potential benefit, then.
Potentially, yes. But the trade-offs were really harsh. I mean, think about the sheer danger in those early factories and mines.
Right, safety wasn't exactly top priority.
Oh, practically non-existent. Accidents were a constant threat. And then you had the living conditions.
Yeah, tell me about those, the tenements.
Truly dreadful. Families crammed into these hastily built, poorly maintained buildings.
Just packed in.
Packed in, often multi-story, designed to house as many working-class families as possible in, very limited space.
Those conditions just sound brutal. Overcrowding, terrible sanitation.
Exactly.
You can almost picture how quickly diseases must have just ripped through those communities.
Oh, absolutely. And the source also touched on the monotony, the sheer lack of variety in the work itself.
Yeah, such a stark contrast to, like, the rhythms of farm life or the creativity of skilled trades.
Total different world. What impact do you think that kind of monotony might have had on people, on their sense of purpose?
Well, you'd imagine it would be crushing. And maybe that erosion of individual skill, it sort of laid the groundwork for, well, for unrest, for labor movements later on.
That's a really good point. It highlighted this fundamental shift in the workers' relationship to their work. Now, flip side,
Okay,
we see the rise of this new middle class,
right. Who are we talking about here?
primarily those white-collar workers,
Ah, yes.
the folks who owned and managed the factories, but also the growing number of professionals, lawyers, doctors, teachers.
And the term white collar itself came from this time.
It did, because their work didn't involve the same kind of manual labor.
And they really seemed to be benefiting most from all this change, didn't they?
They were definitely riding the crest of the industrial wave, yeah.
Suddenly able to afford all these new manufactured goods.
Things that made life more convenient, more comfortable.
It's fascinating. The source mentions that some, the upper middle class, even managed to sometimes integrate into the aristocracy.
Yeah, some did. Talk about a shakeup of the traditional social order.
It really highlights the fluidity, maybe.
Yeah.
At least for some people, within this new structure.
For some, yes. But the source also brings up a really critical aspect of that middle-class mindset.
Which was?
This strong belief that their success was all down to them.
Ah, this self-made man idea.
Exactly. Their own hard work, their ingenuity, their personal merit. That classic bootstrap narrative.
Right. And I suppose the flip side of believing that could sometimes be a pretty critical view of those still in the working class.
It could, yeah. Almost implying it was just, a lack of individual effort holding them back.
A perspective that maybe overlooked the bigger picture. the systemic issues, the huge challenges the working class faced.
Precisely. It perhaps overlooked those systemic inequalities. Did the sources suggest how this individualistic mindset might have influenced, say, social policies or views on poverty?
That's a crucial question, isn't it? This focus on individual responsibility often led to policies that favored, well, minimal government help.
Laissez-faire, almost.
Right, putting the burden firmly on the individual to improve their own situation. Now, sitting right at the top
The apex.
of this new social pyramid were the industrialists themselves, the owners.
The Carnegies, the Rockefellers, figures like that, eventually.
Their massive wealth from owning these corporations translated directly into huge power.
Immense power. And as the source points out, they often wielded influence that surpassed even the traditional landed aristocracy.
Wow, so money talked louder than titles, essentially.
In many ways, yes, a fundamental reshaping of power dynamics.
Okay, let's pivot then. How did all this impact women? Because it really seems like two completely different stories depending on class.
Starkly different, yes.
For working class women, it sounds like going out to work wasn't really a choice.
Not at all. An absolute necessity.
If the husband's wages weren't enough, and often they weren't.
Which was common.
Women had to find wage-earning jobs. Factories, mines.
It's so important to remember those stark economic realities. And the source brings up the really sobering issue of child labor.
Oh, right. That's hard to even imagine now.
Initially, children as young as 5 were also working for wages.
5 years old. In factories.
In factories, in mines, often right alongside their mothers. It paints a grim picture of the entire family just being pulled into this industrial machine out of sheer survival.
It's such a contrast to the traditional image of, say, a rural family, isn't it?
How so?
Well, even though farm families worked incredibly hard, there was often maybe a stronger sense of the family unit working together. On the farm.
Ah, I see.
In the industrial setting, the source mentions that men, women, kids, they were often separated, different workplaces.
That's right. It really seems like that traditional family dynamic was being significantly strained, fractured even.
Yeah, but things did eventually change regarding child labor.
Slowly. As the dangers became just undeniable, you start to see the beginnings of government intervention.
Laws.
Laws aimed at gradually getting children out of the most hazardous jobs, promoting education instead. It was a slow, often fought-over process, but a significant shift.
Okay, now, for middle-class women, almost the complete opposite picture.
Almost the direct opposite, yes. With their husbands generally earning enough.
The expectation was they would not work for wages outside the home.
Correct. This idea of the separate sphere really comes into sharp focus here.
Explain that a bit more. The separate sphere.
Well, it was this ideology, basically, that said men belonged in the public sphere, work, politics, while women's proper domain was the private sphere, the home.
So their identity became really tied to domestic roles.
Increasingly so. They were the homemakers,
Yeah.
responsible for creating this nurturing refuge for their working husbands, raising the
A
children.
very different definition of womanhood compared to working class women.
Worlds apart in many ways.
So this massive industrial growth,
Yeah.
it wasn't just new classes and changing gender roles, it also just hammered the cities, didn't it?
Threw a monumental challenge at them, yeah. They simply couldn't cope with the sheer number of people flooding in.
The infrastructure just couldn't keep up.
Far from it. The rapid pace of urbanization completely outstripped the development of essentials, like take pollution.
Yeah, the iconic image of smokestacks.
Exactly. The source vividly describes the thick, sooty coal smoke from factories, from ships, creating these dense, toxic fogs over cities.
And that had direct health impacts, presumably.
Oh, devastating impacts on public health, breathing problems, lung diseases.
And it wasn't just the air, right? The water.
The water pollution sounds absolutely appalling. Industrial waste, human sewage,
Just dumped straight into rivers.
straight into the rivers, which were often the source of drinking water.
Oh, God.
The source gives that really visceral example of the River Thames in London during a drought.
The great stink.
Well, a great stink, certainly. The horrible stink, the source calls it. From all the accumulated waste, you can just imagine.
Ugh, a stark reminder of the environmental cost of unchecked industrial growth.
Absolutely. Then you have the immense pressure on housing.
Back to the tenements.
Back to the tenements. The source details these hasty, poorly built structures, really just designed to cram as many people in as physically possible.
Yeah, you described them before. Overcrowded, bad ventilation, no proper sanitation.
Perfect incubators for disease.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's hardly surprising that things like typhoid and cholera spread so rapidly.
Especially among the working class. It paints a truly grim picture of daily life for so many.
Given those terrible conditions, how do you think that influenced, I don't know, social cohesion? Or maybe spurred people to organize?
Oh, it absolutely fostered a sense of shared hardship, didn't it? Shared injustice.
Yeah,
And that became a huge catalyst for working class solidarity for the early forms of labor movements as people tried to collectively fight back against these conditions.
right. They had to band together.
They had to. And unfortunately, concentrating so much poverty, so many working class people together in these urban areas, it also contributed to a rise in crime.
Makes sense, sadly.
The source notes an increase in theft, often just driven by desperation,
Trying to survive.
trying to survive, and also a rise in violent crimes, sometimes linked to things like increased alcohol consumption in these really stressful, overcrowded places.
So as you can clearly see, the Industrial Revolution was just, well, a seismic event. It went so far beyond just new machines.
Fundamentally remade the fabric of society.
Yeah, it created new opportunities, sure, for some, but at the same time, it created these profound challenges, immense hardships for so many others,
The starkly different experiences based on class.
especially for women.
Right. And the dramatic environmental fallout, the social consequences in these booming, overburdened cities. It really gives you a powerful snapshot of this transformative time.
It really does. So thinking about all this, what aspects of this huge societal upheaval resonate most with you? And maybe more importantly, what questions does this deep dive into the sources raise for you about how societies, well, how we navigate and adapt to periods of really rapid technological and economic change today?